This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.
And welcome back, everyone. Yeah, life isn't easy. Things present. You got to pilot through them as best you can. But I ask this question. Are you choosing the life you're living, or are you just managing it? Maybe another way to put that is, are you surviving or are you thriving? We are going to talk about that today. Are you choosing your life or managing it, which is the title of a book that he is working on. And this is his life's work. He is the visionary founder of Intentional Achievements. It's an organization dedicated to helping individuals and businesses achieve major success through intention. Joe Price joins us on the program. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Steve. How about yourself?
Fantastic, and loving this topic today because, and I don't know if this is in line with what you practice and coach, but the more and more I read about our lives and what's happening in our lives, the more and more I'm seeing that we are creating our lives, don't even know that we're doing it, but we are. Everything that's happening around us, we picked it. We chose it.
Right.
It didn't just, it showed up, that happened. Oh, look what happened today. Look at that happen. Little things happen here and there. But by and large, if you look at manifestation, energy, or any of that, everything around, that's our creation. Congratulations. You created your life.
Yeah.
Do you believe in that?
I do. I put it a little differently, right? Because I do believe in the manifestation concept. The question that I ask is what you're creating a reaction to other things that are happening in your life? Or is it a result of a vision or a picture that you have in your mind of what you want, and you are creating that based on intention and being intentional?
So let's go with and I think we're on the same page. You know, maybe you have different form in terms of belief. And listen, I'm looking for evidence. I'm still studying it.
Sure.
Work in
Aren't we
progress.
all?
Yes, yes. When you say reaction to our lives now are a reaction to things around us, would it be safe to say that that's also a reaction to what happened in our past and maybe even what's in our subconscious from childhood?
Absolutely true. Our reactions, a lot of times, are learned emotions based on past experience, or a reaction to something that we believe happened to us, right? I think we may have talked about this concept before, but there's a difference between what actually happens to us and the interpretation of the story that we weave about what happened to us, right? And then we actually live the interpretation of the story instead of living in the fact. So if something happened to us in the past, we make up a story about what happened to us. And then anything in the future that triggers that story, we react to it,
Hmm.
right? And that reaction is an out of control action based on the past rather than what's happening at this moment.
Yes. Yeah. That's where I was going with that.
Yeah,
Um, how do we know if we're choosing our life or just managing it? Is it obvious?
it's not as obvious as you would think, right? So I have a couple of questions to put us into particular scenarios. So let's say that we are parents of any age kid. Am I reacting to my child's behavior, or am I responding and being intentional to the need that they're demonstrating?
Got to process that one for a moment.
Okay.
Hmm.
let me switch gears while you're processing.
Sure.
Let's say you're a spouse. Am I defending my position or am I creating a connection with my significant other?
And give an example how one might be responding.
Okay. So the difference between a response and a reaction. So my spouse says something to me which triggers some sort of past experience, either that I've had in that relationship or maybe in another relationship.
Mm.
And I react to that past relationship instead of stopping, breathing, and asking myself, what does that person actually need from me right now?
Oof. Back to the word intentional. It's you have to be intentional to analyze on a regular basis how you are, I don't want to say reacting, how you are conducting yourself.
Absolutely right. It's layers of intentionality that we normally don't think about, right?
Yeah.
So for example, let's put ourselves in an employee-employer relationship, right? You're the employee. Am I chasing tasks that I need to perform, or am I creating an impact in my organization based on my actions?
Beautiful example. So let's say your intentions, I want to grow. I want to grow as an individual, maybe a leader, maybe you're a sole proprietor and you want to grow your company. You're stuck with the minutia. You're in the middle of you got to take care of, I don't know, invoicing and little things here and little things there, but in the distance is the rainbow and the pot of gold, and the success is there. You can feel it. It's almost as if you're swimming and you're just not getting closer to land, i.e., the rainbow.
Yes.
And I would imagine that you're just reacting to the situations just to stay afloat. How do you get past all that? And
Yeah.
I know we can say, well, hire somebody else, and all those kind of delegate, da 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 da
Right.
da da.
Right. Right.
Okay, maybe, but I don't.
Maybe.
Maybe. What do you think the
So
answer is overall?
let's talk about the comparison between some phrases that we might use that would help us understand the difference between being reactive and being intentional. So in
I already have one. I'm waiting for your thing.
okay. So the first one is, are we frantic or are we focused?
Okay.
Okay.
So, in what you're saying, Joe, is that in your everyday operations as that person, you ask that question. Is that reasonable?
Yes. And so I'm looking at several things. I'm looking at what my actions are and what the outcome is. Remember, intentional is always outcome focused. So frantic living feels full. Focused living feels fulfilled.
Hmm. Now, and I got you on that, and that's an interesting way, very interesting way to look at it. What many people may say at that point, I don't have time. I'm taking care of all of this stuff here. I don't have time to go network, come up with new programs and offerings for my company, and update the website, do social, whatever it may be, because I'm stuck doing the regular stuff, and I don't really want to do that stuff, but it's got to get
Right.
done. Uh,
Yep.
so what comes up? I don't have time for all of this.
Correct. And here's something funny because I was talking with a colleague yesterday about this very subject, and her comment to me was, it's a time management problem. And my submission to her was, it has nothing to do with time management. It has to do with the choices I make.
With my time.
Yes. It
Mm.
has to do with my focus and my alignment to my outcome.
And would you say your boundaries?
Absolutely true,
Yeah, I can
right?
feel it firsthand. Yeah, I have a company and working with a potential new client. I'll be honest. Here we go. A potential new client, met with them for an hour and 20 minutes, and it's, big potential there. Worked on a proposal, well, like another hour at least. Met with them again, another hour and a half. Now I'm at the point where, and there's, there's come some dynamics there in terms of funding and sponsorships and all of that. But now
Sure.
I'm at the point where I've invested over 3 hours and very focused investing of that in shared ideas. Now I throw it to the universe. I'm waiting on them, and that's it. I've already done my part. I'm not doing
Okay.
any more. And honestly, I just put up a boundary because I'm usually the one like, oh, well, here's another idea, and here's another idea. No, I'm done.
Sure.
All right, we'll see where we go.
Yeah. Well, there's some nuances here, right? And that has to do with the communication between you and this potential client, right? And how that communication went. So, for example, are you asking questions about if this happens, what happens next? And if all this aligns, are we ready to move forward? So, in our intentional communication, we're being very intentional about asking questions to set the stage as to whether the time that I invest in the actions that I'm putting in
Yep.
are going to bring me to the outcomes that we both agree on.
Absolutely, absolutely. And those questions are asked. My next text is going to be, okay, insert name. Great meeting. And I already followed up with a, great meeting with you, and we're closer to figuring out what the goals are. It's spot on right now.
Sure.
Next step. Like I've already presented everything in terms of how I can provide the next step and take them levels up, and they realize that. But
Right.
now it comes down to, budgeting and what they want, yeah, how they're going to handle that. But I feel in that situation, it's on them. I can't do any more. I can keep throwing ideas, but I'm not getting compensated for that. So it's like, all right, now I'm
Yeah.
leaning back and now the ball's in their court, proverbial ball in their
Yeah.
court.
No, I certainly understand that. And it comes to one of the next comparison words that I want to throw out, and that is control versus clarity,
Ooh, love it.
right?
Mm.
So in a reactive world, we're always looking for control. In an intentional world, we're always looking for clarity.
That was the number one word that I used all of last year. And to the point of the people around me, colleagues or whatever it might be, people in groups I'm part of, they started using that word because I would say, and we need some clarity. Where are we with this? Like, I don't understand what you guys are talking about. Be clear,
Absolutely
be
right.
clear. I'm not trying to control anything. Just understand.
Yeah.
Clarity is I don't want to say it's everything, but it's very much close to everything.
Well, and it's interesting when people say clarity, again, what does that actually mean?
Well, that's true
Because,
too.
right, you and I have talked about before that definitions dictate our actions. So when one person hears the word clarity, they say, well, I have to be more concise and more precise and more clear with my language. And another person hears clarity, and what they hear is, we have a different definition of the word that we're talking about. Let's each define it and find out how far apart we are,
Mm.
right? So the definition of the terms that we're using becomes important.
Yes, and then there's also clarity versus expectations.
Absolutely correct, right? So there's a difference between, and I believe and teach that we have to get away from expectation because expectation creates disappointment because there's no way that anyone can fulfill 100% of someone else's expectation. So at
Hmm.
some point when there's expectation, there at some point in the future there's going to be disappointment.
I need to go back on that. Let's look at that. So,
Okay.
setting expectations, and that's, I guess that's an exercise in interpretation, but
Okay.
setting expectations, you're saying that there's always going to be some disappointment?
Absolutely. And the difference between being reactive and being intentional is the difference between setting expectations and creating agreements.
Hmm. Okay. So, let's say you're in a personal relationship. How does an agreement look? Because I got you on the agreements, and I'm going to side note this for a moment. In my journey, even most recently, I'm the shake and we're good. Not in like deep business situations, but working on
Sure.
certain things. Um, doesn't work. Needs to be an agreement, signed off on it, clarity, all of that.
Correct.
But if it's a personal type situation, how do there's expectations of, let's say, your spouse, expectations of a friend.
Right.
You've spoken about a situation, and each is expecting something. It seems reasonably clear, but now you're saying that it should be an agreement. How do you forge an agreement in a personal situation?
I get you. Now the question becomes, are those expectations spoken or unspoken? Okay. Because a
Um,
lot of times
hmm,
we have expectations of the other person that we don't share, right?
1 billion%, and that's where it truly goes wrong.
Absolutely true. So if I have an expectation of my spouse, for example, or my friend, then I'm going to say, look, here's what I would like to have happen. Can we create an agreement around it in order for us to bring this about? And can we make a commitment to the actions that we're each going to take in this agreement?
So what I'm getting from this, Joe, is that all of us assume that there is an agreement because there are expectations.
You got it.
Hmm. And can an agreement, short of a business agreement, is it reasonable even if it's in a text? Hey, by the way, we said we were going to do this, just making sure that you're on the same page, that we're meeting at 3 p.m. and we're going to have lunch, but then after that, we're going to go catch a movie, blah, 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 whatever it might be.
Right.
That serve as a, personal agreement?
Absolutely true. I just want to clarify what we agreed to.
Hmm.
If you see anything different, please respond.
So here's an example in real time. Um, Going away, little getaway, business connected, whatever it is, with someone. And, expectations. Yeah, we'll grab dinner here, grab dinner there. But that's just thrown into the stratosphere.
Right.
Texting and say, go hypothetical here. Hey, I'm looking forward to going away. I'm fine with just doing nothing if you're okay with that. If you want to sightsee for a few hours, I'm okay with that. But now you're clearly defining it where the other person could turn around and say, "What do you mean you're going to sit around and veg on the beach all day? I want to go see this and I want to go see that. And I want to go parasailing.
Right.
Blah, 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 blah." Oh no, that's
Yeah,
not what
good
I
for
was
you.
thinking.
And here's the way that I would handle that situation. I would say, Steve, you and I are going to go away for a couple of days. Should we have a conversation ahead of time about how we're going to spend our time, what we're going to do for meals, or are we just going to let things happen?
Yep. Yeah. So now it's interesting
You-
because the expectation is it's assumed that that's all part of, the agreement,
Right?
but it's not.
So again, it comes back to this whole question of, are we just managing that experience, or are we creating the best experience that we can have? One's reactionary and one's intentional.
Hmm. Wow. A lot of the stuff that I hear from you almost sounds sometimes rhetorical and obvious. We take it for granted. That's the way it is, but nobody ever talks about it. And it like hit you over the head with it. Like now I'm seeing it. I
Yeah.
just assumed, we talked about our expectations. Well, we didn't go to the next step to make sure, call it cemented it.
Yes.
It was just, hey, let's build a house. Well, no, we have to put the foundation and make sure that that is ready to go before we do anything after that. No, we just said, man, build a house.
How many of us would build some sort of substantial building that we want to feel proud about and put our name on, and not follow a blueprint to build it? How many of us would just say, let's buy some lumber, let's buy some supplies, and we'll see what happens,
Who's going to hammer? Who's going to measure?
right? We wouldn't do that there,
Mm.
but I submit to you that most of us build our life that way,
When you really think about it and search deep, that's the truth.
right?
Yeah,
So let me give you some other contrasting words,
sure.
right? Reaction is hopeful, intentional is deliberate, right? How many of us have said to ourselves, boy, I hope this thing works out? Intentionality doesn't hope.
Well, with that, I hope it works out. And I say it, um, it's not positive. It's great to have hope, but there's comes from a place of doubt and lack. Instead of saying,
Right,
well, I hope it works out or whatever, I trust that it will be fine. It will work out, you know?
right.
And maybe that's now, crossing the bridge over to the intention side.
But here's the challenge that we have. We say, okay, I want to go from here to there. And I plan the first two steps and I say, okay, I'm ready. And then you take those first two steps, and then the rest of the journey is reacting to all of the detours that may come, hoping that you're eventually going to get to where you want to go. Instead of being deliberate and saying, I'm not going to just plan the first two steps, I'm going to plan the entire thing from start to finish. And I know if there's a detour based on my planning, I know how to get around the detour because I know where the next mile marker is that I'm heading toward, right? And I can always go through the detour and get to that next mile marker and then find myself back on my plan.
Gotcha. So how do we phrase our language when, somebody says, yeah, hey, listen, I just want to set the expectations. Yeah, a common phrase sounds positive, like you're being proactive, but it's not everything. So how would you reframe that when somebody says to somebody, hey, I just want to set the expectations?
I'd like to have an agreement about where we're going and what agreements we're going to make on how we're going to get there.
You know why that's never used? And it should be because it's committal.
That's the challenge that I have seen more than anything else.
I'm feeling it right now because and even in a personal situation, like we're going away together. Sounds harsh. Hey Joe, all right, I'm texting. Hey Joe, all right, we're going away this weekend. I just want to set an agreement for this. It's the way it should be, but I'm just saying it sounds very hard.
Yeah.
But it
Well,
needs to get done.
the challenge is how intentional are we going to be, and how flexible are we going to be? So, are we going to say, look, we're going to allow ourselves each free time from the morning until lunch. We're going to meet. We're going to create an agreement. We're going to meet for lunch, and then determine together what we're going to do in the afternoon.
Is
So
it
part of our time is flexible and part of our time is intentional, but we've created agreements around it to where we're not I'm not upset at you because you're not joining me for my morning activity. We didn't create that agreement. We said we're going to be flexible and do our own thing in the morning and meet up for lunch and see how things are doing.
Is it to say to somebody, short of a uh, formal business situation, but to say to somebody, you get past the expectations. Now, instead of saying an agreement, is it okay to say, I want to make sure we're on the same page. So I'm planning on doing this is what I'm thinking for that getaway. Or is it okay to say that so we both understand instead of an agreement? Is that acceptable?
Absolutely true.
Okay.
I would go back even further, right? So when you and I are planning this event, what I would say to you is, hey, Steve, how about if you think through what you would like to have happen while we're away? I'll do the same thing. We'll come back before we go, have a conversation about what each one of us are thinking, and then create some agreements about how we're going to do this thing.
Intentionally interacting. That's what I get from that. And you know what? Now you're open. You're open. It's an open dialogue as opposed to I'm setting the agreements for our trip.
Absolutely. I
Yeah.
want to hear what you want. Do you want to hear what I want? We're going to create this thing that we're both going to enjoy.
And choose the vacation we want to go on or getaway, i.e. choose
Correct.
our life. Intentionalachievements.com is your website. Love what you stand for. All of this. It's almost as if like you're the race car drivers going around the NASCAR track and you're whispering in the ear. That's how they do it. It's not just the driver. There's 10 people watching. All right, move it over to the left, move it over to the right.
That's the truth.
You're that
That's what
person.
intentional coaching is all about, Steve.
Unbelievable. Free consult, or if anybody's got questions, can they reach out to you?
Absolutely. Go to our contact page on intentionalachievements.com. They'll see my email address and my WhatsApp link, and they can reach out in any way that they feel comfortable.
Love it. And by the way, the analogy with the race car driver, I didn't just make that up. I spoke with
That's
a NASCAR driver yesterday who I'm going to be doing some work with, and I watched the video and listened to everything that they are hearing going around the track. And it's just exactly what you do
yeah,
in a different way.
absolutely.
In a different
Yeah.
way. Wow.
And the fascinating part is they're not looking to shave seconds off of their time. They're looking to shave milliseconds off of their time, right? And it's
Yes.
those small mid-course corrections that make all the difference, and that's the reason for a coach.
1 billion%. It truly is the way it is, and why we need to be we need some course correction in our lives, Joe. There's no doubt about it.
We really do.
All right. Thank you so much for being here. Looking forward next time we catch up.
Thanks, Steve. Appreciate it. Bye now.
This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.